Hello, I'm Debbie Williams, WSU Walla County Extension Agent, and I'm here with Mark Heitzman. Mark is a Soton County Extension Agent, and he's going to help us with how to select your lamb for fair.
So the first thing we want to talk about as far as selecting lambs is that each lamb has a weight that it needs to be. We could call that the target weight. Some lambs will be market ready at 120 pounds. Others will need to be up to 140 or 150 pounds. We want to make sure that we're selecting lambs at the right age and as well as the right weight. When talking age of market lambs, most of our lambs that are fairs in the Northwest are somewhere between about 5 and 7 months of age. And all fairs are going to have a minimum market weight or a bottom weight for the fair. And that could range from 110 to maybe up to 120 pounds. And a top weight anywhere from 140 to maybe 160 pounds. So as we look at this lamb here, this is a lamb that's kind of a medium to large frame lamb. I would say that this lamb would ideally be probably about 145 pounds. At the fair, it could be its target weight. There's some points we should also consider when we're first picking out our lamb, whether that's from our own herd or we're going out to a breeder's herd. First of all, most of these lambs, ideally they would be weaned from the mom for a couple weeks and actually started out on grain. It's going to be a lot easier to get a lamb on feed and to keep it gaining if that lamb's been weaned off of the mom and started on feed and that. And we want to ask the breeder as far as the vaccinations that the lambs receive. And one important vaccination is what they call an overeater shot. And overeater's disease is fairly common in market lambs. And we can help prevent that by giving an overeater shot, also called Clostridium perfringens, is kind of the fancy name for it, a couple weeks before that lamb is weaned. We also want to ask the breeder what the lamb's been fed. You know what this lamb was fed before? So that would be a good question to ask whether or not the lamb's been on grain, and if it has, to buy a little bit of that from the breeder so that we can mix that with the feed that we're going to actually feed our lamb on. And lambs are really very social animals, and they like having a friend or a buddy to be fed out with. So it's a good idea, if at all possible, to either buy a second lamb so the two lambs can be fed together, or you can have another youth exhibitor's lamb, a friend, or someone else in your forage club, and feed those lambs together. They just seem to gain a little bit better, and it helps to keep the lambs calm and keeps them happy. We talked a little bit as far as the target weight for the lamb. We also need to talk about how much we could expect this lamb to gain from when it's been weaned or when it's been weighed in at the fair to actually at the fair. And most lambs will gain anywhere from about 7/10 to 1 pound a day as far as an average daily gain. So we can expect these lambs to gain 3 to maybe 5 pounds a week, and up to about 15 to 20 pounds, or maybe a little bit more even, per month. So it's really important to monitor your lamb, make sure that it's gaining the way that we want it. If it's not, to adjust the feed on it. If this lamb weighs, how much did this lamb weigh in? Hasn't been weighed in yet, but let's say this lamb weighs about 75 pounds right now, and it's 90 days before the fair, and if this lamb needs to weigh about 145 pounds at the fair, then that lamb needs to gain about 70 pounds between now and the fair. So that lamb could gain somewhere about 0.8 of a pound a day, and that's really a pretty acceptable daily gain for market lambs. So let's talk about 3 or 4 things that we need to actually consider when we're actually picking out our market lamb. And probably the first thing to begin with is structural correctness. And that's how the lamb's skeletal structure, how that lamb's put together from a bone standpoint, and also as far as its overall conformation. And ideally you want this neck of the lamb to come right out of the top of the shoulder, and Maddie's doing a good job of holding this lamb, and we want that shoulder, that head to come right out of the top of that shoulder blade. And then we also need to analyze these lambs from the ground up, from their feet on up, and we want lambs that are really good on their feet and legs. We want those front legs of the lamb to be dripping underneath that front shoulder, the back legs to be nice and square and have a lot of width when that lamb stands. And we look at this lamb right now, it is really wide from behind, and it looks like it has some really good feet and legs on it. Also goes in this structural correctness is the top line of that lamb. We want that top line to be nice and level and to be nice and strong. And this area from the hip bone out to the pin bone, out to the dock, we want that to be fairly level and that. And this lamb is really an excellent lamb as far as from a structural standpoint. So after structural correctness, we need to talk about the amount of muscle that the lamb has and its potential as far as to put on muscle as far as a market lamb. These are meat projects, so we want these lambs to have a lot of natural thickness. We can start on the chest floor. And we want lambs that are fairly wide for that chest floor. And we'll turn that lamb sideways here. There we go. We want lambs that are really wide up over that shoulder area, wide through the rack, which is that area over the shoulder, wide through the loin, and also wide from behind. I like to get my hands on market lambs, and we actually can get a better sense of how much muscle potential they have, particularly when they have wool on it like these are. And probably most important is that loin area. And we want that loin to be fairly long. So we want to find where the ribs end and where that hip bone begins. We want a fairly wide loin. We also want a loin that is deep. We can get our hands over the lambs and see how deep that loin is. We also want a lamb that is really wide over the top of that loin. Let's give a real view of that lamb. And the other good indicator of muscle is that leg of lamb. And this area towards the bottom third of the lamb, that's the stifle area. And we want to have a lot of natural width and a lot of depth through that leg of lamb. So muscling is very important as far as market lambs. Then we also want lambs that have a lot of style and balance and structural correctness. And basically that style and balance is eye appeal. That's what grabs a person's attention when we're out in a pen of lambs. We want lambs that are fairly high-headed, that have that neck placed correctly on the lamb. We want lambs that are really long and level and show a lot of volume and capacity from the side, and also lambs that walk out as far as good on the feet and legs. So all that goes into eye appeal of the lamb. And then the last thing we probably should consider is volume and capacity. Let's turn back and we'll get a side view of this lamb once more. And volume and capacity goes with muscle. We want lambs that are long-bodied, obviously, but we also want lambs that have some depth of body, that are kind of deep-ribbed, have some spring or some shape to that rib, and then lambs that also are fairly wide to the top. So we want wide, deep, long-body type lambs. So those are all important points to consider when selecting a market lamb. So we have two lambs here that we can kind of compare as far as some differences in these lambs. And these lambs are basically both the same weight. They weigh right at 64, 65 pounds each. So when we're looking at two lambs, there's some differences in these lambs from the side. You can see that this lamb, we look at how long it is as far as the loin and the hip, and compare it to this lamb over here as far as from the loin and out to the hip. This lamb's just a little bit longer lamb at this point. And then as we look at these animals from the rear, we can kind of compare muscle on these two lambs. We like to start over the top of the shoulder here and the loin of the lamb, and then also look at the lamb as far as from behind. And there's some muscle differences in these lambs. There's not a lot of differences, but this lamb is probably a little wider up over the top at this point, and just a little bit wider to that stifle area. Shows a little bit more thickness compared to this lamb. Otherwise, they're fairly similar as far as overall body type, and they both have the potential to be nice market animals for the two young ladies. So in conclusion, lambs are really a nice project for 4-H and FFA members. We want to make sure that we select the proper type of lamb to begin with, the right age, lambs that have some muscle and thickness to them, lambs that are structurally correct, and also lambs that have some eye appeal. And then do a good job as far as feeding that lamb, have a good feeding program, keeping that lamb healthy, working with the local veterinarian if we have any questions, and then to train that lamb between now and the fair and to work with that lamb, and then do a nice job as far as presenting that lamb to the judge. So we'd like to thank Maddie for allowing us to use our market lamb project today, and good luck at your county fair.
We'd like to thank Sarah and Nicole for sharing their two lambs for our lamb comparison today. And thank Mark Heitzman from Asotin County Extension for comparing the lambs and helping us select lambs.